What's good, everybody? This is Kyle Alexander. I'm your host on KOA Sports, and we are back with another video. No, it's been a minute, but we're here, and I have a lot more ideas on the way, a lot more content on the way. So stay tuned for that. And today we're just going to get right into it. As of yesterday, at the time of this recording, Ravens were making some moves. They signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the practice squad. So I thought, okay, that was a nice move. We get somebody who's going to be vocal and outspoken, and I actually love that as a Ravens fan. But I thought that was it for today. And then the Ravens pull this off as they trade edge rusher Odafe Oweh to the Chargers for safety Aloe Gilman. And there was some pick swaps exchanged as well. And now we're just going to I'm gonna show the trade on the screen as well. The Ravens have traded edge rusher Odafe Oweh and a 2027 seventh round pick to the Los Angeles Chargers for safety Aloe Gilman and a 2026 fifth rounder. Yeah, I was like a little surprised that it happened right then and there, but I think a lot of Ravens fans were complaining, saying that this should have been done early in the off season or in the off season instead of the regular season. But I like it just for the fact that the Ravens don't lose him for away for nothing because he wasn't a contract year. So we're gonna actually look at their stats now. So Oweh stats are right here on the screen, and this was his fifth year as well. So he's in his fifth season. In total, in his career, he recorded 23 sacks, 148 tackles, 26 tackles for loss, forced 7 fumbles while recovering 3, and totaled 91 pressures. Now, this is solid production from a guy in his fifth year, still on his rookie deal. That is this is solid production. It's not like he's not terrible production. He's not doing anything. These are like solid numbers you would see from a guy who's like up and coming or, like still being developed. But the issue lies in this season as he's recorded 0 sacks through 5 games this season. And in a very lackluster Ravens pass rush. And the thing is, Ravens fans knew this was a big year for him because it was a contract year. And if you look at our history, always the common theme. That's always the common trend. Zadarius Smith had a good contract year with the Ravens. Then pick him up, goes elsewhere, gets paid, becomes a Pro Bowler. Then a couple years after, Matt Judon, same thing. Has a good contract year, goes elsewhere, gets paid, and becomes a Pro Bowler. And with Oweh, you would have going into the season, you would have thought, oh, that's going to happen because especially there was rumors like, oh, he slimmed down, he's in shape more, and the Ravens drafted him off of his athleticism for his potential because of his athleticism. But it just the production hasn't been there, especially this year. But the production hasn't been there enough to say, okay, we're going to give you a second contract, or you're the edge rusher we're looking for. Because mind you, he's a former first round pick edge rusher from Penn State who was drafted for his athleticism. And the Ravens figured, okay, this could be our number one pass rusher. If you look at the rest of the division, you got Myles Garrett on Cleveland, T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh, Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. They all have those are all top 5 edge rushers right there, right then and there. And not to say, oh, we need a top 5 edge rusher, but they're guys who can affect and change the game. You saw Myles Garrett and that front 7 be the reason that Cleveland be staying in half of these games. T.J. Watt has been a big reason Pittsburgh has still been able to win over 500. Trey Hendrickson, ain't no saving that defense, but he's done his best to affect the game, and he has before. The Ravens don't have that, and you look at Oweh. This was a guy who was supposed to be, like I said, supposed to be our number one pass rusher, supposed to be a guy that can change the game. Because his rookie year, he did it. He showed flashes of it. In that game against the Chiefs on Monday, I think it was Sunday night, I believe, he got the game-winning fumble to give the Ravens their first win over Kansas City since like Mahomes and Lamar came into the league. So right then and there, I know some Ravens fans think, okay, we got our edge rusher, we got our guy in the trenches, boom. But we just haven't seen it consistently. He's been able to make plays here and there. He showed flashes. Like, I think even in 2024, he had 10 sacks for the first time in his career. But You see, like when the playoffs come, when the moments come, he's not he's not that guy that can affect the game or impact the game in the Ravens' favor. Now, I will say on the Chargers end, I think this is a good trade for them because okay, you're getting an edge rusher when Khalil Mack is out and he's been missing time, and you need some depth there. You need somebody there in his absence, and Oweh, like I say, he's on his contract year. So worst case scenario for the Chargers, he doesn't pan out, and you just let him walk in free agency. Boom, no harm, no foul. You gave up a fifth rounder. No harm, no foul. But the hope here with the Chargers is that, say Khalil Mack is back, he's playing at a high level, and with the attention he's getting, always able to eat off of that, always able to improve and develop off of that. And you get a nice tandem between the two. Or like I say, you can just keep using Oweh in rotation. I feel like he would be a better player in rotation with the Chargers pass rush. But this is something that you definitely want to get to beef up the trenches. And I see why the Chargers made the move. Just to, again, both sides, it was very low risk, high reward. Speaking of, let's get to the other guy and the other man in the trade with Aloe Gilman, the safety from the Chargers, and Ravens get him when they have some much needed help at safety. Let's pull up his stats right here. And this is his sixth season right now. So in 6 seasons, he's accumulated 252 tackles, 5 interceptions, 21 deflections, 4 forced fumbles, and 4 recoveries. 67.1% completion allowed, and 7 touchdowns allowed. He's on the season. He's allowed 50% completion, 113 yards and a touchdown, and he's a fun fact. He's played with Kyle Hamilton at college at Notre Dame, so that's been one of the positives of the trade. That he can get in there with Hamilton with some familiarity when they played in college, and they can play off each other, have communication. Now, with this, another thing I've looked into and saw that he played majority of his snaps at free safety, like that deep free safety. He was kind of like that nickel safety for the Chargers in the past, and he kind of covers that. He covers that deep middle. With the Ravens, this is the recipe to success for defense, at least as far as like the coverage on the back end. The Ravens need a lot more on defense with the way the season's going. But you've seen time and time again, you've had this success on defense where Hamilton doesn't have to play that deep safety role all the 24/7. Because now you're taking away his best skill, which is being that joker, that wild card safety, like a Derwin James. And that's another thing. Gilman's played with a Derwin James, so they know how to. I feel like with Hamilton, it's a similar role, at least between those two, similar scheme between those two, and you can let Hamilton be that free roam guy where Gilman can play the deep end with Malachi Starks. Gilman can be that deep safety, coverage safety, and Starks can play off of him as well to cover the back end, and that allows Hamilton to be that joker type of defensive player. Now, there has been some clips, some people are saying that Gilman wasn't that great, or some Chargers fans saying that. And there was a clip of him having a blown coverage to Cortland Sutton for a touchdown. I looked at the video to see the full context. There was miscommunication between Tony Jefferson and Gilman. Not excusing that, because as a safety, you still have to cover. You still have to cover what you have to cover, but on the bright side, like I said, he only gave up 113 yards in coverage this year. So Gilman is definitely a guy, and I liked him personally because anytime I see a Chargers game, he's always just making tackles or there in coverage to break up a pass. So again, I really like the idea of him being this free safety that can free up Hamilton to do what he wants, and that's what you want if you're the Ravens and you make this trade. You make this type of trade knowing, okay, we got to get Hamilton back in that Joker role, like that hybrid defensive Swiss Army knife role, and low risk, high reward for both sides. Now, looking into the financial aspect of this trade, the Ravens freed up around $8 million in cap space with the Oweh trade, and some people are looking at this like, okay, you freed up 8 million. That's a good amount of cap space you freed up. And again, instead of letting Oweh walk for nothing, you get rid of him while he still has some value, and you get something in return. Now, again, the Ravens also signed Chauncey Garner-Johnson. You have depth at safety. You bring in two safeties that day and lose an edge rusher. So that's why there is speculation going around that the Ravens could potentially add another edge rusher on the market, whether it's a trade for another one or if it's just signing somebody. There's not a lot of edge rushers out there as far as really free agency or the trade, but especially on the trade market. But that brings up another question that I've seen some Ravens fans talking about, and this actually caught my attention. So, our third-year middle linebacker Trenton Simpson from Clemson, he actually played like he was like a Micah Parsons type of linebacker. Not saying as far as like accomplishments or like him as a player specifically, but more so like his play style. Simpson played that off-ball linebacker, like pass rushing linebacker type of hybrid. And I looked at his college numbers and I looked at his stats as far as pass rushing in college: 12 and a half sacks and 23 tackles for loss in his college career. And that's him like coming on as blitzes and stuff. So you look at it and you see how this defense is just allowing any and everything at this point. This begs the question: could you possibly move Trenton Simpson to the Sam linebacker for him to be in the pass rush more and set the edges, whereas Teddy Buchanan, the rookie from Cal, you let him be that Mike linebacker and that Mike off ball linebacker. And I think that's what the Ravens should do. I think that's something worth looking into because once again, it cannot get any worse than what's currently going on. And Buchanan has showed flashes. He showed that he can be that off ball linebacker, like that Mike linebacker. So I think you give him the free range to earn his spot and grow more in that role, while also trying Simpson on, be like, hey, let's try you at Sam, see how you set the edge more, and see where we can go from there. See if you can carve out a role there, and you get him in the role. Then you start to get him in a rotation with Mike Green, Tavis Robinson, since those are going to be the main two guys in rotation. Yeah, I think that's something worth looking into, and especially if you want to bring in another edge rusher, like we were saying, we're going to actually segue to that part of the conversation. As the Ravens are there's a lot of speculation going on with them adding another edge rusher, and another player that could be potentially on the move that's been speculated, and this is more so just the writing has been on the wall, and it's tight end Mark Andrews. Now, previous years before, you would look at Mark and you would probably say, as a Ravens fan, you would probably say, "Oh, he's a foundational member of this Ravens team. He's, this is a guy we want to get the Super Bowl with. Like we want to get that title with." But you look at recent years, or at least like this past year, he hasn't been the same. Now, again, granted, it's not that he's just regressed as a player. I personally think it's just the Ravens have a lot of targets on the field. You got Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, Justice Hilton carved a name out for himself as a receiving back. And even this year, you got DeAndre Hopkins, who's been nothing but phenomenal when he gets the ball thrown his way. You got Tylan Wallace, who showed up with big plays here and there. You got Tez Walker, he's not 100% on catches being touchdowns, but he's still 3 or 4 on touchdowns. 3 of his 4 career catches are touchdowns, and that you look at him, that's a guy you want to get the ball more. But with Andrews, I think the time is up. You look at with the Ravens, how their window has gone is looking like, okay, we have all these great players that we want to keep to be the foundation to win the Super Bowl, but we've been to one AFC championship with Lamar Jackson, 0 Super Bowl appearances, and players are starting to age, are starting to get older. You have to look at this team and look at some of the players on the roster and decide, okay, we have to be willing to move on from some of these players. And I believe Mark Andrews would be the first one to go if they are to trade another player. You look at Andrews, he's 30 years old. He's in a contract year. He's making, I think, $7 million for at least for the base salary, and trading him would actually free up 11 million in cap space. So that would be about 19 million you freeing up right there between trading Andrews and Oweh. So you look at it and it's like, why are you freeing up 19 million? Who are you going to get for 19 million? The Ravens clearly need an edge rusher, have a uh, lackluster pass rush game. They made the Texans O line look like one of the best O lines in the league with the way they couldn't get pressure. I think they got one sack. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch the game as a Ravens fan, but the pass rush has long been a problem in Baltimore. Ever since Terrell Suggs and Elvis Dumervil have been long gone, we haven't had that edge rusher that can just wreak havoc and get pressure on the quarterback. Now, granted, you're not just going to stumble into a guy like that every day and every offseason, clearly. But when you look at how Super Bowls are won, they're won because you don't turn the ball over. When January comes, you don't turn the ball over, and you win in the trenches on both sides. You look at the Chiefs when they lost to Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl a couple years back. Tampa Bay dominated on both sides of the trenches. They dominated with their pass rush and overwhelmed and exposed Kansas City's O line. And they were able to, on the other side, they were able to protect Brady. You look at the Bengals Super Bowl with the Rams and Joe Burrow. The Rams had not the Rams. The Bengals had no answers for Aaron Donald and Von Miller. Granted, I highly doubt a lot of teams have the answer, but we've seen that that's also a product of the Bengals having the poor O line. Because on that last play, if you give Burrow a second, he was looking at Jamar Chase on fourth down with the game on the line. He probably would have had him had he gotten better blocking or had the trenches won that 1 second. And you look at the Eagles last year, best O-line in the league. So you have to win in the trenches, and the Ravens have not been able to win in the trenches, especially this year. They haven't won on the offensive line. They haven't won on the defensive line. And you can say injuries, cool, all that, but Detroit had about 22 players on injured reserve last year, and they still got the number 1 seed. Granted, okay, they got exposed in the playoffs, but we're in the regular season right now. That was no excuse for them to not get the number 1 seed. You've seen time and time again, teams deal with injuries all the time. You just have to find a way around it. Now, as far as edge rushers that they could look for on the market, I'm hoping they get an edge rusher. But these are 3 names that I've heard. I think one of them I've picked out as a possible prediction, but other 2 guys are guys that I've heard through rumors or just online and seeing what I was able to find. So I'm gonna pull the 3 guys up on the screen right here. And the first name we have is Max Crosby on the Las Vegas Raiders. He's currently 28 years old, and he just signed a 3-year, $106.5 million extension on top of his last deal, or the last year of his current deal. So he's basically on the books for 4 years. And this is the long shot. This is the long shot addition or trade acquisition that I don't see happening whatsoever. The only reason I put him up here is because there's been some speculation, but especially now they're saying there's rumors that the Raiders should look into trading Max Crosby just in general with their slow start this season and gaining draft capital. But I don't see the Ravens making a play because they're in the same conference, and the Ravens again is just the Ravens don't have the money for it. Well, at least to offer the extension now that he's extended, Ravens probably could find a way to make something happen, but I don't see it happening whatsoever. If it does happen, by all means pull the trigger, but I don't see this happening in the slightest. I know Ravens fans have been been pushing for Max Crosby. I don't see him being in the black and purple. Now, the second guy up here, this is my realistic target, or this is a guy I've heard in rumors, but this is someone who I think the Ravens should go after fully and is a realistic realistic trade target. And that's Kayvon Thibodeau from the Giants. He's currently 24 years old, and he's on the last year of his rookie deal, making $4.98 million. and he still has his 5th year option. So depending how things go, you trade for him. That's a low risk, high reward type of trade right there. You trade for him, things don't pan out. Okay, you can let him walk. Don't pick up the 5th year option. If things do work out, you can extend him right there on the spot, or you can accept his 5th year option to give yourselves time to work out a deal. Now, Thibodeau is a guy who's shown flashes before and is shown that he can be one of the better edge rushers. He had one season getting double digit sacks. And the other reason I see him as a realistic trade target, he's in the crowded defensive line. Well, not even crowded, they're just loaded defensive front. But you got Brian Burns, who they traded for like while back or a year or two ago, and he's leading the or one of the league leaders in sacks. He's in the top 5. You got Dexter Lawrence, who's arguably the best nose tackle in the league, and he's just so great at what he does as far as getting pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run and like just getting all the attention in the middle to free up the edge rushers. You got Abdul Carter, who they just drafted from Penn State this past offseason. And you look at Thibodeau, you look at those names in those situations, Thibodeau would be the odd one out. And again, he's cheap. Like he's barely making $5 million, or just not even making $5 million. But this is a guy who I would love to see come into the Ravens and get him in rotation with Mike Green, Tavis Robinson, opposite of Kyle Van Noy. And I would love to see the Ravens to develop him, learn from Van Noy, and bring just a different element of explosiveness and being able to get after the quarterback to this team. Now, the last guy, this is a name I threw in, but I've seen some rumors about him getting traded in general, and that's Jalen Phillips of the Miami Dolphins. He's currently 26 years old, and he is currently playing on a 5th year option where he's making $13.25 million. And the Dolphins have just been a dumpster fire of a team. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. They've they've had talented rosters year in and year out. They've been getting more and more talent on their roster, but they just don't. They can't get it figured out. They can't get anything figured out to become a competitive team or to become a playoff team. And people are looking at them and saying this could be a team that sells at the trade deadline. They could be a selling team. You look at the Tyreek Hill situation. You know, he gets injured, and there's been rumors about him being gone, but now they're talking about moving on from him once he recovers. And you look at Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. There's rumors that the Dolphins could trade one of the edge rushers because you also got a Chop Robinson and then Matt Judon. Now, I'm not gonna say they're gonna trade their 2 starting edge rushers for those 2 guys, but or instead of one of those 2 guys. I think anybody's on the table for Miami as far as the edge rushers and honestly just in general. But Phillips is a guy I think you could definitely call for the availability and see, hey, if there's a reasonable price, we'll pay it. And Phillips has showed some flashes and potential. I've seen a couple games where he's made some great plays and just made like the right move, made the right tackle. And he's, like I say, he's 26. He's in his prime as far like age wise. So Phillips and Thibodeau would be the 2 guys I would really be high on as far as realistic options for the Ravens. Thibodeau would be the guy I want long term, honestly. But those are my predictions. I think that's as best as it's going to get as far as the trade market. The only other option I could think of is Trey Hendrickson, but Bengals aren't going to trade him in division. And on top of that, you still got to pay Trey Hendrickson. Only hope for getting Trey Hendrickson is just if he walks for nothing in the offseason, then you can offer him a big deal. But I don't see the Ravens being able to offer him a big deal. So Thibodeau would be the edge rusher that I wholeheartedly believe the Ravens should go after just to try and beef up this pass rush and do something to salvage this season. And as far as trade grades, I give both sides a B because, again, it's low risk, high reward. If Oweh works out for the Chargers, you have somebody long term that can be a pass rusher with the guys they have in rotation, and opposite Khalil Mack as far as right now. And the Ravens, you have somebody in the Alohi Gilman who gives Hamilton that ability to play all over the defense while you still have two safeties that can play the back deep, three safeties really when Ardarius Washington comes back, and that's been another thing. The Ravens have missed Ardarius Washington, so I think the Gilman trade is just them showing like, all right, we don't have Ardarius Washington right now. Let's get somebody who can play deep so we can put Hamilton in that like that Joker role. But that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think below in the comment section. Let me know if you think the Ravens made a great trade or who benefits from this trade the most. Let me know what you think the Ravens are doing next as far as trade moves, if you have any thoughts on that. And like I said, we're back now. We have plenty of content coming on the way. So as it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I will talk to you guys next time.